Hi guys, in this tutorial we want to look at how to make her compulsory. Okay. How to make her compulsory. If you if you remember, in the last tutorial we were looking at some examples of how to use hand and her operator. So I explained to you that when you use hand, you're making your conditions compulsory. So and makes conditions or filters compulsory. But when you use or, makes this makes conditions or filters optional. That's the difference. Okay? But what if you have a requirement that demands that you need to use or and you need to make it compulsory? So that's what we want to look at. I need to use or in my query, and I like to make that compulsory. That's the only way to meet the requirement because that will happen a lot in an enterprise environment. When you get real life requirements, you wouldn't have a choice sometimes than to use hand and her, and you have to make your her compulsory. That's also SQL is flexible enough to accommodate that. So let's look at that in this tutorial. So let's say we have a requirement that says prepare a list of employees working in region 3 and 4 and earn salary between 164,000 and 165,000. So let's say we have a requirement like this. How do we write this? And let's let's return let's return maybe first name, list of employees working in region 3 and 4. Okay, so how do we write this? So let's say we want to return first name. So we say select first name. We also want to return region ID, and we want to return salary. Now I will tell you why I'm choosing these columns, because if you look at the requirement, you can guess, because it says in region 3 and 4. So it's good to return this column. We have a column called region ID. So it's good to return. If you look at your requirement, you can tell what columns to return, even if it's not expressly stated in your requirement. You can tell. It also says the requirement also says salary between 164K and 165. So it's good to return salary. And of course, we want to see those working in those regions, the employees working in those regions, and the salary they earn. So it's also good to return the first name or maybe employee ID or something like that. So for this requirement, let me make some space. So up here we have the requirements. Here we have the query. So we're going to return just three columns: the first name, the region ID, and salary. That's the select line. Now, what are the conditions we have? the salary must be between 164 and 165. And we want those employees working in region ID 3 and region ID 4. So what comes to mind is if I say where salary, either I put salary first or I put region ID first as a condition. It does not matter the way I arrange it. Okay. What matters is how you use your hand and your heart. So where salary between 164,000 and 165,000. Okay. So this is one condition. This condition. Okay. The other condition says and region ID equals 3 and 4. So they have to be working in region ID 3 and 4. So what do I do here? So if you think I'm going to do something like this, maybe we say and region, excuse me, let me change this to lowercase, and region ID equals 3, okay, and 4. Let's try this first and see what we have. Select first name, region ID, salary. So this is the select line. We are going to return 3 columns. The condition is where salary between 164,000 and 165. Let me run from line 2. Okay, I'm going to ignore this. I'm not going to run this part. So I want to run from line 2. So select first name, region ID, salary from employees. Don't have the from here. From employees. Okay, where salary between 164 and 165. So let's run with just this filter first. So we have 6 rows. So 6 rows. Now when we look at these 6 rows and we look at the salary, it has to be between 164 and 165. So when you look at this, of course it's between 164 and 165. We don't have anyone any 165. That's why you don't see that here. So but at least it's not less than 164. So this condition is met. This condition is met. But we have 2 conditions. The other condition says and region ID has to be 3 and 4. If I run this, it's not going to run. You can't do this. So you can only say and region ID equals 3 and region ID equals 4. So let's see if this is going to run. Now we don't want region 5. We want just 3 and 4. But what we have right now, we have region 5, we even have region 2 and 6. But if we had this condition, what we're expecting to see is just where salary between 164,000 and 165 and region ID equals 3 and region ID equals 4. So let's run this and see what we have. This returns nothing, and the reason is simple. This returns nothing because there is nowhere we have region ID equals 3 at the same time region ID equals 4. You can't have 3 and 4 in one region ID column. Is it that you have 3 or you have 4? So we can't use hand. What if I change this to her? Let's see what we have. So now the first condition is this. And the other condition is and region ID equals 3 or region ID equals 4. Let's run this and see. Now we have 139 rows. But is this correct? Do we have the right output in this? Do we have the right output in this? Uh, no. Let's see what we have. I'm going to make some space here. I'll remove the requirement so we can have space. So let's quickly look at the result that we have. Salary has to be between 164,000 and 165. But look at this. This is not even up to 164. Look at this. It's not up to 164. And this, like that. So the query runs, but it does not meet the condition. So let me tell you what is happening here. This is making this up to here as one condition. Don't forget that your hand will make your filters or your conditions compulsory. So it has to be between 164,000 and 165, and region ID equals 3. So because you have hand and hand, this is compulsory. Where the problem comes from is now when it's running, because you put or here, when it's running this part, it doesn't care if the salary is between 164,000 and 165,000 because you said or. That's why we're having all kinds of salaries that don't meet this requirement. So it's making salary between 164,000 and 165,000 and region ID equals 3 as one condition. So you see that wherever region ID equals 3, you see, is that's what is happening here. But if I change this to, if I want to make this all compulsory, what I can do is to put this in parentheses. Okay, so now this is the first condition. We start from here. This is one condition. This is one condition. Where salary between this and this. Now, this other condition, instead of evaluating this as optional, because I put it in parentheses and I have hand here. So it will make this one condition, then it will make this all together as one condition. So you can use parentheses to make your or compulsory. So now when I run this, you're going to see the difference. You see what we have? We meet the first condition. Salary has to be between 164,000 and 165. And that's what we have. Region ID has to be either 3 or 4. That's what we have. So if I don't put these in parentheses, we're not going to have the right result because we have or, and so it's making this optional. So it's going to run this first part as one, and when it's running that, it doesn't care if we have region ID 4 here. When it's done with this first part, it's going to come to this or part. It will run this and it doesn't care if the salary is between 164 and 165. So the only way to make your or compulsory if you have to is put it in parentheses because you already have hand, and this hand is making this compulsory and is making these two together compulsory. And I'm sorry. And so that will give us um, yes, and that will give us what we have. 3 and 4, we have 3 and 4. Salary between 164 and 165, and that's what we have. In upcoming tutorials, we're going to be looking at more examples on what we have done so far. Okay, we'll be taking different examples of what we have done so far. We'll be able to apply all the knowledge that we've acquired, all the skills that we have acquired so far. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.